The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber opened with a deep sound that echoed through the huge room. Hyunwoo Kim walked inside, his black diplomatic uniform clean and pressed. Behind him, So-Young Park followed in her military dress. Uniform, her face showing no emotion. The chamber was enormous. It could hold thousands of beings from different worlds. The ceiling was so high that clouds sometimes formed near the top. Seats were arranged in circles, going up and up like a giant bowl. Each seat held a different kind of alien being. Hyunwoo had been to this place many times before, but it still made him feel small. There were beings made of crystal that sparkled in the light. Others looked like they were made of water, flowing and changing shape. Some had many arms, others had no arms at all. A few floated in the air without touching anything. In the center of the chamber sat the most important being of all. Chancellor Vorthmak was an ethereal, a race so old that no one remembered when they first traveled between stars. His body looked like it was made of light and shadow mixed together. When he spoke, his voice came from everywhere at once. "Human representatives," the Chancellor said. His voice was calm but cold. "You stand before the Galactic Council, the governing body of 847 civilized worlds. Today, we address a matter of great concern." Hyunwoo stood straight and waited. He had been Earth's ambassador for 5 years. He had learned to stay calm even when things got difficult. "Your species," continued the Chancellor, "has spread across the galaxy too quickly. In just 80 years, you have claimed 200 star systems. This troubles the Council." A being that looked like a giant insect with blue skin stood up. This was Klextar of the Velthari. When he spoke, his voice sounded like clicking metal. "Humans take worlds that others cannot live on. They change impossible places into homes. This is not natural." Another alien rose from her seat. She was Morden, a race that lived in water. Her voice bubbled like a stream. "They fight too much. They argue with each other, then work together when threatened. We do not understand them." Hyunwoo listened to more complaints. The aliens said humans were too aggressive. They said humans took too many risks. They said humans changed too fast and learned too quickly. Finally, Chancellor Vorthmak raised what might have been a hand. The chamber became quiet. "Therefore," the Chancellor announced, "the Galactic Council has decided that humanity must be placed under protective oversight. You will surrender 90% of your military fleet. You will allow Council inspectors on all human worlds. You will ask permission before expanding to new systems." The words hit Hyunwoo like cold water. So-Young's hand moved slightly toward her weapon, but she stopped herself. "You have 30 standard days to comply," the Chancellor continued. "If you refuse, the Council will use force to ensure galactic peace." The chamber filled with sounds of agreement from the alien representatives. Some made clicking noises, others buzzed, and a few sang in high voices. They all seemed to think this was a good idea. Hyunwoo took a deep breath. He thought about Earth, with its blue oceans and white clouds. He thought about the human colonies scattered across the galaxy. People worked hard on those worlds. They had built cities, farms, and schools. They had made homes in places where no life had existed before. "Honored Chancellor," Hyunwoo said, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber. "This is a serious request. I must discuss it with my government before giving an answer." A reptile-like being with red scales laughed. "Discuss? There is nothing to discuss. Human. Submit or face the consequences." So, Young stepped forward slightly. Her voice was quiet but firm. "Ambassador Kim speaks correctly. Earth's government must be consulted on all matters of this importance." The Chancellor's glowing form pulsed brighter. "Very well. You have your 30 days. But know this, humans. The Council controls 50,000 warships, your entire fleet. Numbers less than 3,000. Do not think you can fight the combined might of 847 worlds." Hyun-woo bowed politely. "We understand the Council's position. We will convey your message to Earth immediately." As they turned to leave, Klextar called out, "Tell your leaders that resistance is foolish. Many species have tried to defy the IE. Council, all have learned to obey." The huge doors closed behind them with another deep sound. Hyun-woo and So-young walked through the long hallways of Nexus Station without speaking. Other beings moved around them, going about their daily business. Only when they reached their private ship did So-young finally speak. "Ambassador, do you think they understand what they just did?" Hyun-woo looked at her. So-young had fought in 3 different wars before becoming a military attaché. She knew how humans reacted when threatened. "No," he said quietly. "I don't think they do." They entered their ship and sealed the door. Hyun-woo immediately activated the quantum communicator. The message would reach Earth in just a few hours. He thought carefully about how to explain what had happened. "This is Ambassador Kim," he said into the recorder. "Priority 1 message for President Choi and the Defense Council. The Galactic Council has issued an ultimatum. They demand we surrender most of our fleet and submit to their oversight. We have 30 days to respond." He paused, then added, "They seem to believe we will submit without resistance. I recommend we prove them wrong." So-young smiled for the first time since entering the council chamber. "The council thinks humans are like other species. They think we'll bow down when threatened." "They're about to learn differently," Hyun-woo replied. As their ship left Nexus Station, heading toward Earth, neither of them knew that their message would start the greatest crisis in galactic history. The Council had made one critical mistake. They had threatened humanity's freedom, and humans had never been good at accepting chains. The 30-day countdown had begun. The message from Ambassador Kim reached Earth in 3 hours and 27 minutes. President Tae-hyung Choi was having dinner with his family when his emergency communicator beeped. The sound made his wife look up with worry. She knew that. Particular beep meant something very serious had happened. "I have to take this," he told her, walking to his private office. 5 minutes later, every important person in Earth's government received an urgent call. The Global Defense Council would meet in 2 hours. No exceptions. The council room was deep underground, beneath the city of New Seoul. The walls were thick enough to stop any weapon known to humanity. Tonight, those walls felt like they might not be thick enough. General Bo-Ram Lee arrived first. She was a small woman with gray hair, but her eyes were sharp as laser beams. She had commanded human forces in the Centauri border war and never lost a battle. Admiral Woo-jin Nam came next. He was tall and thin, with hands that moved constantly when he talked. He controlled humanity's space fleet and knew every ship by name. Dr. Mi-young-han was the last to arrive. She looked tired, as if she had been working for days without sleep. Her lab coat had coffee stains on it, and her hair was messy. But her mind was the sharpest in the solar system. President Choi played Ambassador Kim's message 3 times. Each time, the room got quieter. "Well," said the president when the message ended. "What do we do?" General Lee spoke first. "We should consider compliance. 50,000 enemy ships against 3,000 of ours? Those are impossible odds." Admiral Nam shook his head hard. "Compliance means slavery. They want to control where we go, what we do, how we live. That's not protection. That's conquest." "But if we fight, we lose," General Lee replied. "And when we lose, humanity dies. At least if we submit, we survive." "Survive as what?" Admiral Nam asked. "As pets? As servants? I'd rather die fighting than live on my knees." Dr. Han had been quiet during this exchange. Now she cleared her throat. There might be another option. Everyone turned to look at her. She seemed nervous, like she was about to reveal a dangerous secret. "I've been working on something," she said slowly. "Project Prometheus. It's classified. At the highest levels, President Choi leaned forward. Tell us. We've been experimenting with quantum field manipulation. The basic idea is to create localized distortions in space-time itself. Admiral Nam frowned. What does that mean in simple terms? Dr. Han took a deep breath. We can bend time and space in small areas. Make things age faster or slower. Make objects heavier or lighter. Even make matter behave in impossible ways. The room was completely silent. Finally, General Lee asked, How small an area? That's the problem, Dr. Han admitted. Right now, we can only affect a few cubic meters, but we think we can scale it up. Much bigger. How much bigger? President Choi asked. Star system sized, Dr. Han whispered. Admiral Nam stood up so fast his chair fell over. You're talking about weaponizing physics itself. Not weaponizing, Dr. Han corrected. More like creating protective barriers that enemy ships can't cross, or making their weapons stop working, or making their engines fail. General Lee looked skeptical. This sounds like science fiction. So did faster-than-light travel 100 years ago, Dr. Han replied. So did artificial gravity. So did colony ships that could carry 1 million people. President Choi was quiet for a long moment. Then he asked, How long would you need to make this work? If we had unlimited resources and authority to commandeer any facility we needed. Maybe 3 weeks. That gives us 1 week to test it, Admiral Nam said. While the leaders debated on Earth, news of the ultimatum spread to human colonies across the galaxy. The quantum communication network carried the message to 200 worlds in a matter of hours. On Kepler 442b, a mining world near the galactic rim, Hyo-jin Song was leading the evening shift when the message came through. She was a tough woman who had spent 20 years digging precious metals from asteroids. She called her workers together in the main cafeteria. The council wants us to give up, she told them. They think we'll roll over and show our bellies like scared dogs. A young miner named Jae-ho Park raised his hand. What do we do, boss? Hyo-jin smiled. It was not a nice smile. We do what humans always do when someone tries to push us around. We push back harder. On Gliza 606 SMC, a farming world where the crops grew in purple soil under a red sun, Jae-sung-yoon was loading grain transporters when the news arrived. He was an older man who had left Earth to start a new life among the stars. He immediately called a meeting of all the farmers in his district. They gathered in his barn, which smelled like the strange spices that grew in alien soil. They want to control us, he said simply. Tell us where we can go, what we can do. That's not why we came to the stars. A farmer named Sun-mi Kim nodded. My grandfather fought in the Korean War. He used to say that freedom isn't free. You have to fight for it every generation. Jae-sung looked around at his neighbors. These were people who had learned to grow food on worlds where nothing had ever lived before. They were tough and stubborn and proud. Then we fight, he said. And we make sure our children don't have to bow to alien masters. Back on Earth, President Choi made his decision. The vote was called at midnight, New Seoul time. Every human colony had a representative in the quantum link. The question was simple. Submit or resist. The vote was not even close. 200. Worlds, 3 billion people, all said the same thing. Never surrender. President Choi stood before the camera that would broadcast his words across human space. Citizens of Earth and all human colonies, he began. Today, the Galactic Council demanded our submission. They believe that because they are older and more numerous, they can dictate our future. He paused, thinking of all the humans who had died to reach the stars. All the people who had sacrificed everything to build new worlds. They are wrong, he continued. Humanity will not surrender its freedom. If the Council wants our weapons, they can try to take them. But they should remember that humans have a long history of doing impossible things when our backs are against the wall. He looked directly into the camera. Dr. Han, you have full authority to implement Project Prometheus. Admiral Nam, begin Operation Hercules immediately. General Lee, prepare our defenses. As the broadcast ended, President Choi sent a coded message to Ambassador Kim. Tell them our answer is no, and tell them that if they want a war, they'll get one they'll never forget. 3 weeks to save humanity. 3 weeks to prove that humans were not just another species to be controlled. 3 weeks to show the galaxy what happened when you cornered the most stubborn species in the universe. The countdown continued. 28 days had passed since the ultimatum. Ambassador Hyunwoo Kim walked through the halls of Nexus Station one more time. His footsteps echoed on the metal floors. Other beings moved around him, but none spoke to him. Everyone knew why. He was here. The Galactic Council chamber was packed. Representatives from 847 worlds had come to witness humanity's surrender. The air buzzed with excited chatter in hundreds of different languages. Chancellor Vorthmach floated in his central position, his ethereal form glowing brighter than usual. He was clearly pleased. The other council members looked confident and relaxed. This would be easy. Klextar of the Velthari clicked his mandibles together in what passed for laughter among his people. Today we see the humans learn their place, he said to his neighbor. Morden Representative Kelnara bubbled softly. Perhaps now they will become civilized, like proper species should be. Hyunwoo entered the chamber exactly at the appointed time. He wore the same black diplomatic uniform as before, but something was different about him. He walked taller. His eyes were calm and steady. Human Ambassador, Chancellor Vorthmach said, his voice filling the chamber. Have you brought your government's acceptance of our terms? The chamber fell completely silent. 847 species waited to hear humanity bow down. Hyunwoo stood straight and spoke clearly. Honored Chancellor, the people of Earth and all human colonies have carefully considered the Council's demands. He paused, looking around the chamber at all the alien faces. Some looked eager, others bored. All of them expected the same thing. Our answer, Hyunwoo said, is no. The silence stretched for several seconds. Then the chamber exploded into noise. Aliens shrieked, buzzed, clicked, and roared in surprise and anger. Some jumped from their seats, others waved tentacles or claws in the air. Chancellor Vorthmach's form pulsed rapidly, showing his shock. Impossible! You cannot refuse! No species has ever dared defy the Council! Hyunwoo waited for the noise to die down. When it did, he continued speaking as if nothing had happened. The United Colonies of Humanity will retain all rights of self-determination and self-defense. We invite the Galactic Council to reconsider its position and work toward a peaceful solution. A reptilian being with bright red scales stood up and hissed. Peaceful? You talk of peace when you defy 847 worlds? Your entire species could be extinct within days. Other voices joined in. Arrogant humans! They must be taught a lesson. Destroy their homeworld first. Hyunwoo listened to all the threats without changing expression. When the chamber grew quiet again, he spoke in the same calm voice. Perhaps that is true, he said, but I would remind the Council that humanity has a long history of achieving the impossible when faced with extinction. We have survived ice ages, plagues, and world wars. We have crossed the void between stars and made homes on worlds that should not support life. He looked directly at Chancellor Vorthmach. We are not easily broken. The Chancellor's form blazed with anger. Your defiance will be remembered as the moment your species chose destruction over wisdom. The Council fleet will teach you the price of arrogance. As Hyunwoo left the chamber, the Council members immediately began planning their attack. They had been expecting this possibility and were ready. Admiral Yoonji Kang of the Council Fleet received her orders within the hour. She was a professional military officer from the Takmori species, known for their strategic thinking. Her fleet of 50,000 ships was the largest military force in galactic history, but as her scout ships returned with reports from humans, space, Admiral Kang began to feel confused. The human defensive positions were unlike anything she had ever seen. "Show me the tactical displays again," she ordered her intelligence officer, a six-armed being called Nixpol. The holographic display showed human space in glowing detail. 200 star systems, each defended by a small number of human ships. But the ships were arranged in perfect spheres around each system, not in traditional battle formations. Each defensive grid has between 20 and 50 human vessels, Nixpol reported, but they are anchored by massive space stations. We cannot identify the purpose of these stations. Admiral Kang studied the display. The stations were enormous, some the size of small moons. They seemed to be built around large spherical structures that gave off strange energy readings. "What kind of energy?" she asked. "Unknown, Admiral. Our sensors cannot identify it. It does not match any known power source." This troubled Admiral Kang. In her 200 years of military service, she had seen every type of weapon and defense system in the galaxy. But these human installations were completely new. "Perhaps they are. Some kind of shield generator," suggested her tactical officer, a floating jellyfish-like creature called Velmor. "Or new weapons," added Nixapol. "Human technology develops very quickly." Admiral Kang made her decision. "We will test their defenses with a limited assault. Prepare 5,000 ships for an attack on their outer colony system, the one called Kepler 442. Meanwhile, on the surface of Kepler 442b, Hyojin Song was leading her people in final preparations. The mining colony had been transformed over the past 3 weeks. Underground bunkers now housed all 50,000 colonists. Food and water had been stockpiled for months. Her son Min Ho was only 8 years old, but he was trying to be brave like his mother. "Are the aliens really going to attack us?" he asked. Hyojin knelt down and looked him in the eyes. "Yes, they are, but we're ready for them." "Are we going to win?" Hyojin smiled and ruffled his hair. "Son, we're human. We always find a way to win." High above the planet, the massive defense station hung in space like a mechanical moon. Inside its control center, Captain Dong-Hyun Ryu monitored the approach of the Council fleet. He was a calm man who had served in the human navy for 15 years. "Sir," reported his sensor officer, Lieutenant Youngie Lim. 5,000 Council ships dropping out of hyperspace at the system's edge. Captain Ryu nodded. "Signal all defense ships. Maintain spherical formation. Do not break pattern under any circumstances." "What if they break through our lines?" asked. His weapons officer, Captain Ryu, looked at the enormous quantum field generator that filled the center of their station. 3 weeks of round-the-clock work had built this impossible machine. Dr. Han's theoretical breakthrough had become terrifying reality. "They won't break through," he said quietly. "Today we show the galaxy what humans can do when we have to." The Council fleet advanced in perfect formation. Admiral Kang felt confident. 5,000 ships against 30 human vessels should be no contest at all. But as her fleet entered the outer system, strange readings began appearing on her sensors. Space itself seemed to be changing around the human defensive grid. "Admiral," her science officer called out urgently, "I'm detecting massive quantum field fluctuations around the human positions." Admiral Kang frowned. "What kind of fluctuations?" I don't know, Admiral. This is completely outside our experience. As the Council fleet drew closer, the space around the human defense sphere began to shimmer like heat waves. The giant station at the system's center started to glow with an inner light that hurt to look at directly. "All ships," Admiral Kang ordered, "open fire on the human vessels. Destroy them quickly." The Council fleet unleashed enough firepower to vaporize a moon. Energy beams and explosive missiles filled space with deadly light. But something impossible happened. The human ships absorbed the damage but held their positions, and space itself began to change in ways that defied every law of physics the Council knew. The demonstration was about to begin. Admiral Yun-Ji Kang watched in growing horror as her fleet's weapons struck the human ships. The enemy vessels took terrible damage, but they did not break formation. Their hulls cracked and burned, atmosphere leaked from ruptured compartments, but still they held their positions in that perfect sphere. "How are they still operational?" she demanded of her tactical officer. Velmore's jellyfish-like body pulsed with confusion. "Unknown, Admiral. Sensors show massive structural damage to all human vessels, but their life support and engines remain functional." What Admiral Kang could not know was that the human ships had been specially modified for this mission. Most of their internal space had been converted to automated repair systems and redundant life support. The crews were skeleton teams of volunteers, who knew they might not survive the day. On the bridge of the human ship Soul's Pride, Captain In-Soo Han felt his vessel shudder under another barrage of enemy fire. Sparks flew from damaged consoles. The smell of burning electronics filled the air. "Hull breach on decks 4 through 7, reported his engineer, Lieutenant Kyung-Ho Shin. "Sealing emergency bulkheads. Hold position," Captain Han ordered. "Do not break formation under any circumstances." His crew was down to 12 people from the usual 50. They had volunteered for this mission knowing the risks. Each of them had families on the colony below. Each of them understood what failure would mean. At the center of the human defensive sphere, the massive space station continued to glow brighter. Inside its control room, Captain Dong-Hyun Ryu received status reports from all 30 human ships. 17 vessels report critical damage, Lieutenant Young-E Lim called out. "But all are maintaining position." Captain Ryu nodded grimly. The plan required all ships to hold their positions until the quantum field reached full strength. If even one ship broke formation, the entire defensive grid would collapse. "Signal from Earth," reported his communications officer. "Dr. Han confirms the quantum generator is approaching critical threshold." On Earth, deep in the underground laboratories of CERN 7th, Dr. Mi-Young Han watched readings that should have been impossible. The quantum field manipulator in the Kepler 442 system was performing beyond her wildest calculations. "Field strength is at 85%, called out her assistant, Dr. Sang-Wook Lee. "Temporal distortion is becoming visible to the naked eye." Dr. Han stared at the display screen showing the battle. Space around the human defense grid was beginning to shimmer and twist. The laws of physics were being bent to humanity's will. "Increase field strength to maximum," she ordered. "It's time to show them what we can do." Back in the Kepler 442 system, Admiral Kang's fleet suddenly found themselves facing something no military academy had ever taught them to handle. The space around the human ships began to ripple like water. Stars in the background seemed to "Stretch and bend, Admiral!" her science officer called out in panic. "Temporal readings are off the scale!" Something is creating massive distortions in space-time itself. Admiral Kang felt her first moment of real fear. Her people, the Takmori, were among the most scientifically advanced species in the galaxy, but this was beyond their understanding. "All ships, increase firepower," she ordered. "Destroy those human vessels before—" Her words were cut off as something extraordinary happened. The Council fleet's energy weapons began to slow down as they approached the human defensive sphere. Laser beams that should have traveled at light speed crawled through space like slugs. Missiles aged decades in seconds, their fuel turning to dust before they could reach their targets. "What is happening to our weapons?" Admiral Kang demanded. Her science officer's voice shook with terror. "Admiral, the humans have created localized temporal fields. They're manipulating time itself." On the planet below, Hyo Jin Song and her people watched the battle through underground observation posts. The Council fleet's weapons were moving so slowly they could track individual laser beams with their eyes. Her son Minho pressed his face against the reinforced window. "Mom, why are the alien ship's lights moving so slowly?" Hyojin put her arm around him. "Because humans are very good at solving problems, sweetheart, even problems that seem impossible. In space, the Council fleet was discovering that their problems were just beginning. The temporal distortions were spreading outward from the human defensive grid like ripples in a pond. Ships that entered the affected areas found their engines aging rapidly. Metal hulls corroded in minutes. Electronic systems failed as their components experienced decades of wear in seconds. Admiral Kang's flagship, the Dominion of Stars, was one of the first to be affected. Her engineering chief, a crystalline being called Korthax, delivered a report that defied belief. "Admiral, our hull plating is showing signs of advanced age deterioration. Some sections appear to have aged 50 years in the last 5 minutes." "That's impossible," Admiral Kang protested. "Nevertheless, it is happening. If we remain in this field much longer, the ship will begin structural collapse." Similar reports came in from across the fleet. Ships that had been built to last centuries were falling apart in minutes. Weapon systems designed to function for decades were failing as their components aged beyond usefulness. But the most terrifying part was yet to come. Some ships found their crews aging at different rates than their vessels. A few reported crew members becoming younger while their equipment grew older. The temporal fields were unpredictable and chaotic. Captain Dong Hyun. Ryu watched the Council fleet's growing panic from his station's control center. The quantum field generator was working better than anyone had dared hope. But he knew this was only a demonstration. The real test would come if the Council chose to escalate further. "Open a channel to the Council fleet," he ordered. His communications officer looked surprised. "Sir, we're still under attack." "They need to understand what they're facing," Captain Ryu replied. "And they need a chance to withdraw before someone gets hurt permanently." The transmission went out on all frequencies. Captain Ryu's calm voice reached every ship in the Council fleet. "Council forces, this is Captain Ryu of the Kepler 442 Defense Station. You are currently experiencing temporal quantum field disruption. This is not an attack. This is a demonstration." Admiral Kang heard the transmission on her bridge. Around her, the ship continued to age and decay. Warning lights flashed as system after system failed. "You have 60 seconds to withdraw your forces beyond the field boundary," Captain Ryu continued. "After that time, we cannot guarantee the stability of local space-time. We will not be responsible for temporal paradoxes or causality violations." The words sent ice through Admiral Kang's veins. Temporal paradoxes, causality violations, iti. Humans were playing with forces that could unravel reality itself. "Sir," her navigation officer called out, "several ships are reporting hull collapse. We need to withdraw immediately." Admiral Kang had fought in dozens of battles across the galaxy. She had faced enemy fleets, space monsters, and cosmic phenomena. But she had never faced an enemy that could weaponize time itself. "All ships," she ordered, her voice heavy with defeat. "Withdraw to minimum safe distance. Emergency retreat." The Council fleet turned and fled, leaving behind only sensor probes and the growing realization that humanity was not like other species. They did not follow the normal rules of technological development. When threatened with extinction, they achieved impossible breakthroughs. As the last Council ship crossed beyond the temporal field boundary, Captain Ryu ordered the quantum generator to power down. The shimmering distortions in space gradually faded. The human ships, battered but still operational, maintained their positions. On Earth, Dr. Mi Young-han watched the readings return to normal. The test had been a complete success, but she knew this was only the beginning. The Council would not give up after one defeat. "Status report from all human colonies," she ordered her staff. "I want to know if our other defensive systems are ready." Because Dr. Han knew something the Council didn't. The station at Kepler 442 was not unique. Over the past 3 weeks, similar installations had been built at every human colony. 200 star systems now possess the power to bend space and time to their will. Humanity had not just built a defense, they had built a revolution in the very nature of warfare itself. The galaxy was about to learn that humans, when cornered, could achieve the impossible. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike anything in the organization's 10,000-year history. The Great Chamber buzzed with fear, confusion, and something else that had rarely been felt here before: respect for a younger species. Admiral Yunji Kang stood at the center of the chamber, her military uniform still showing scorch marks from her ship's hasty retreat. Around her, representatives from 847 worlds waited to hear her report. Many of them had been confident this morning. Now they looked worried. Chancellor Vorthmak's ethereal form flickered with unusual patterns of light. In all his centuries of life, he had never seen a council fleet retreat from a smaller force. "Admiral Kang," the Chancellor said, his voice carrying across the silent chamber, "explain to the Council what happened at Kepler 442. Admiral Kang took a deep breath. She was a professional soldier who had never failed a mission before today. The words came hard. "The human defenses were unlike anything in our databases," she began. "They did not rely on superior weapons or numbers. Instead, they manipulated the fundamental forces of reality itself." A murmur of disbelief rippled through the chamber. Klextar of the Velthari clicked his mandibles nervously. "Impossible. No species achieved such technology so quickly." "Nevertheless," Admiral Kang continued, "they created localized distortions in space-time. Our weapons aged to uselessness before reaching their targets. Our ships began to fall apart as decades of wear compressed into minutes." Dr. Noctar of the scientifically advanced Kethmori species rose from her seat. Her people had been studying quantum physics for millennia. If anyone could understand what the humans had done, it would be her. "Admiral, you're describing temporal quantum field manipulation," she said slowly. "The energy requirements for such technology should be impossible for a species only 80 years into space travel. And yet they did it," Admiral Kang replied simply. The chamber erupted into excited chatter in hundreds of languages. Some species demanded immediate retaliation. Others suggested negotiation. A few called for complete withdrawal from human space. But it was Zilkan, the ancient representative of the Mordai civilization, who provided the answer everyone needed. Her people were among the oldest in the galaxy, with records stretching back millions of years. "I have seen this before," she said, her voice cutting through the noise like a blade. The chamber fell silent. When Zilkan spoke of the past, everyone listened. "Long ago there was another species like the humans," she continued. "Young, aggressive, and facing extinction from older civilizations. In desperation, they achieved technological breakthroughs that should have taken them millennia to develop." Chancellor Vorthmak's form pulsed with interest. "What happened to them?" "They transcended," Zilkan said simply. "They became something beyond our understanding and left this galaxy entirely. But before they departed, they gave us a warning. They called their rapid advancement necessity technology, progress born not from gradual research, but from the absolute need to survive." The implications hit the chamber like a shockwave. Dr. Noctar was the first to fully grasp what this meant. "You're saying humans don't develop technology normally," she said. "When faced with extinction, they leap forward by centuries or millennia in mere decades." "Exactly," Zilkan confirmed. "The temporal manipulation you witnessed may be only the beginning. There is no telling what other breakthroughs they might achieve if we continue to threaten them. On Earth, President Tae-Hyung Choi was preparing for what might be the most important speech in human history. The quantum broadcast network would carry his words to every human colony, and if they chose to listen, to the Galactic Council itself. He stood in his office, looking out at the lights of New Seoul. His advisor, Deputy Prime Minister Haiwan Young, briefed him on the latest reports from across human space. All colonies are reporting successful tests of their defensive systems, she said. The Council's probe ships have been maintaining a respectful distance from our territory. And Dr. Han's research team? Still working. She says the temporal field generators are just the first application of their discoveries. There are other possibilities she wants to explore. President Choi nodded. He didn't fully understand the science, but he understood the implications. Humanity had crossed a threshold. There was no going back to being a minor species begging for scraps from the galactic community. The broadcast began at exactly midnight, New Seoul time. President Choi looked into the camera that would carry his image across the galaxy. Citizens of Earth and all human colonies, he began. Today marks a turning point in our species' history. The Galactic Council demanded our submission. We have shown them that humanity will never surrender its freedom. He paused, thinking of all the people watching. Miners on distant asteroids, farmers on alien worlds, children who would inherit the galaxy humanity was about to reshape. But we take no joy in this demonstration of our capabilities, he continued. We did not seek this conflict. We would have preferred to join the galactic community as peaceful partners. The camera switched to Dr. Mi-Young-Han, who stood beside an impressive display of scientific equipment. She looked tired but determined. The temporal quantum manipulation, witnessed at Kepler 442, represents only a fraction of human scientific capability when motivated by survival, she said. Our research has opened doors to technologies that could revolutionize galactic civilization. She gestured to the equipment around her. We have developed methods for faster-than-light communication across galactic distances. We can create materials that exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. We have even achieved limited success in manipulating the flow of entropy itself. The implications were staggering. Technologies that could reshape the fundamental nature of civilization. These discoveries could benefit every species in the galaxy, Dr. Han continued, or they could be used defensively if humanity continues to face threats. The choice lies with the Galactic Council. Back at Nexus Station, Ambassador Hyunwoo Kim received an urgent message from Earth. The Council had requested an immediate audience. For the first time since this crisis began, they wanted to talk rather than issue ultimatums. He walked through the familiar halls of the station, but everything felt different now. Other beings stepped aside to let him pass. Some nodded, respectfully. A few looked afraid. The council chamber was much quieter than before. The representatives sat in their seats without the casual confidence they had shown weeks earlier. Chancellor Vorthmak's ethereal form was dimmer, less imposing. Ambassador Kim, the Chancellor said as Hyunwoo entered. We have reconsidered our position regarding humanity. Hyunwoo bowed politely. I am pleased to hear that, Chancellor. Your species has demonstrated capabilities that we did not anticipate, the Chancellor continued. Perhaps our initial approach was too aggressive. Klexitar of the Velthari spoke up, his clicking voice more respectful than before. We would like to discuss a new arrangement, one more suitable for a species of your unique abilities. Hyunwoo nodded. Earth would welcome such discussions, but any new arrangement must recognize certain fundamental principles. Which are? Asked the Chancellor. First, humanity will never surrender its sovereignty. We are willing to be partners in galactic civilization, but we will not be subjects. Hyunwoo's voice was calm but firm. Second, human colonies will remain under human authority. We will not accept external governance. He looked around the chamber at all the alien faces. Some showed resignation, others calculation. All showed a new respect for humanity. Third, humanity offers to share our technological advances with all peaceful species. But this offer comes with our terms, not yours. Chancellor Vorthmak's form pulsed slowly as he considered these conditions. Finally, he spoke. The Council accepts humanity's proposal. Perhaps it is time for the galaxy to learn from those who turn impossibility into innovation. The agreement was not signed that day. There would be months of negotiations, treaties to write, and new relationships to build. But the fundamental change had already occurred. Later, as Hyun-woo prepared to return to Earth, he received a quantum message from his nephew, Young-soo Park, a student in New Seoul. The young man was excited about humanity's new place in the galaxy. "Uncle," the message said, "my teacher asked us what lesson humanity learned from this crisis. I told her that we learned the universe is vast and full of wonders, but nothing in it is stronger than humans who refuse to give up." Hyun-woo smiled as he read the message. The boy was right. Humanity had faced the combined might of 847 worlds and refused to bow. They had achieved the impossible through determination, ingenuity, and the absolute refusal to accept defeat. The galaxy would never be the same, and neither would humanity. The age of human independence had begun.